Hello and welcome everyone. In continuation with the topic of tuberculosis, I'll be covering morphology of tuberculosis, that is gross features and microscopic features. So coming to primary tuberculosis, which occurs in an individual who is unexposed and unsensitized to the TB bacilli. The primary TB most commonly occurs in lung, but it can also occur in intestine, where it is known as intestinal tuberculosis caused by Mycobacterium bovis, which is which is found in unpasteurized milk. Then in skin also it can occur. In that case, that cutaneous tuberculosis is known as lupus vulgaris. Now, most common site in case of lung is lower part of the upper lobe and upper part of the lower lobe, and in a subpleural location. This you should remember for problem-based questions and MCQs also. Then important lesions which we see grossly in case of primary tuberculosis of the lung are, first of all, gonfocus. Gonfocus, again at this site it is seen, and it is a 1 to 1.5 centimeter area with gray white area of inflammation, consolidation, and central caseation necrosis may be present. So this is gonfocus. Next comes the Ghon complex. So when gonfocus is formed, sometimes the lymphatics which are draining this area, they also carry the TB bacilli to the hilar lymph nodes. So this gonfocus, along with the tubercular lymphangitis, along with the enlarged hilar lymph nodes, this complex is known as Ghon complex. And in majority of cases, the immunity of the patient is good. As I told you that primary TB occurs mostly in the immunocompetent individuals and children very commonly. So mostly the fibrosis and calcification will occur in these lesions, and it may become either latent or it may completely heal. So in case these lesions, this Ghon complex, it gets calcified, then it is known as Ranke's complex. So you should remember these three lesions: gonfocus, Ghon complex, and Ranke's complex. These are the gross lesions that can be seen in primary pulmonary tuberculosis. Next, in the microscopic examination, you know that tuberculosis is characterized by granulomatous inflammatory reaction. I also have described this in detail in the videos I have uploaded on the chronic inflammation. So both caseating and non-caseating tubercles or granulomas, they are formed. Mostly if the patient is immunocompetent, the granulomas, they are non-caseating, while if the patient is immunocompromised, like HIV infected individual or patient on glucocorticoids, so in those cases, caseation, lot of caseation is seen. Also, you know that in secondary tuberculosis, more caseation is seen as compared to primary. So many granulomas, they coalesce or they combine to form grossly visible lesions which have a cheesy appearance. Now, granulomas, as I have told you in those lectures on chronic inflammation, they are a combination of epithelioid cells, lymphocytes, and with or without giant cells, and with or without caseation necrosis. So epithelioid cells, they are transformed macrophages, and they have a slipper shaped nucleus and a moderate granular pink cytoplasm. And then lymphocytes, the T helper cells, they are also present in the granuloma. See in this image, this is a giant cell which is formed by the fusion of the epithelioid cells. In this, the nuclei, they are arranged in a horseshoe shaped pattern, and these are the epithelioid cells which are elongated. See, these are epithelioid cells, and they have a vesicular chromatin, and these epithelioid cells, along with T lymphocytes, they form these granulomas. And if the granuloma is of a long duration, then sometimes fibrosis develops at the periphery of the granuloma. Again, this is a granuloma, and this is the central area of caseation necrosis, and caseation is seen more in individuals who are immunocompromised. And Langerhans giant cells, they can be seen in the periphery of the caseation necrosis, and these are formed by the fusion of the epithelioid cells. The next component is epithelioid macrophages, and lastly lymphocytes. In the most peripheral, you can see there is fibrosis. Again, this is a granuloma with caseation, this pink granular amorphous caseation in the center. These are the giant cells, and then the darkly stained round structures, these are the lymphocytes, while the lightly stained structures which are slipper or spindle shaped. These are epithelioid cells like this. Now again, granuloma chronic, if they are chronic, they are of long duration, they are generally surrounded by a fibroblastic rim. So fibroblasts, they are seen in the form of spindle shaped cells with pointed ends. Then they are formed of giant cells, they are of Langerhans type. I told you the nucleus is arranged in the horseshoe shaped pattern. And if the immune response is weak, then there will be more caseation necrosis, and we will also see a lot of macrophages which are laden with the acid fast bacillus. So we do the Zn stain. When we see a lot of caseation necrosis, then we are pretty much sure that we will find the positivity in the Zn stain. So this is an important concept to know and remember. Next, very important in Viva, it is very commonly asked, like what are the causes of granulomas, and infective causes are there, and then there are other causes. So in infective causes, TB is first and foremost, tuberculosis, then leprosy. In leprosy also, tuberculoid leprosy and borderline tuberculoid leprosy with good immune response, they show the granuloma formation. Then cat scratch disease, which is caused by a bacteria known as Bartonella. It also causes stellate granulomas, in which there is predominance of neutrophils and also there is star-shaped necrosis. Then lymphogranuloma venereum caused by chlamydia trachomatis. Brucellosis, syphilis, mycotic means fungal infections. It causes the fungal granulomas. Other causes are foreign body granulomas, which can be caused by foreign bodies like suture. Then in Hodgkin's lymphoma also sometimes granuloma can be seen. Sarcoidosis, which causes a characteristic naked granulomas with sparse number of lymphocytes and an absence of any caseation. Then berylliosis, Crohn's disease. All these are important causes of granuloma formation, which you should remember by heart. Then intestinal TB is another primary TB, and it is caused by the drinking of contaminated milk with Mycobacterium bovis, and unpasteurized milk generally the people consume, and that can lead to intestinal TB. But one more question that is very commonly asked in Viva, they ask like what in children, what can be the other cause of intestinal TB other than drinking of this contaminated milk. So in that the answer is that sometimes some people who are having primary tuberculosis of the lung, they swallow their cupped up sputum which is carrying the bacilli. So by that also sometimes the patient can have intestinal TB concurrent with the pulmonary TB. Now most common site, again important, very important to know, it is ileum or in the ileocecal region. So you should remember this site. And grossly you can see ulcer, thickened walls, and the healing occurs with stricture formation. And the on cut section you will see the areas of caseation. Microscopically, the submucosa of the intestinal wall, it will show the granulomas, and they can be overlying mucosal ulceration in the mucosa, that is discontinuity in the epithelium. So this is a picture which is showing these mucosal glands. This is the mucosa. Mucosa has three layers. One is the outer lining epithelium, then there is lamina propria, then there is muscularis mucosae. After that there is the submucosa. So you can see that granulomas are present in the submucosa. So again you should remember this, that in TB, intestinal TB, the granulomas, they are submucosal. So this is giant cell, they are lymphocytes, epithelioid cells, all forming this granuloma. Now another important point to know is that there can be ulcers seen in typhoid, which is caused by salmonella, and tubercular ulcer also. So in what is the difference in these ulcers, and this is often asked when this specimen of intestinal tuberculosis is given you in the gross in the Viva on gross specimens. So the ulcer of typhoid, it is longitudinal, so it is along the axis of the intestine, while tubercular ulcer, they are transverse ulcer. So you can remember that there is C in tuberculosis, and C you can remember that C corresponds to a transverse arrangement of the ulcer. So these are transverse ulcers in the tuberculosis, and typhoid, they have long ulcer, longitudinal ulcers. Now secondary tuberculosis, it occurs in individual who have been previously exposed to MTB, and now there is either reactivation of some latent focus or there is reinfection with TB bacilli. The lesions here, they are present in the apical region of the lung. This again you have to remember. The lesions are cavitary lesions. Well circumscribed lesions with a firm grey white to yellow, and there is a lot of caseation there, and they will be peripheral fibrosis, and these lesions are generally walled off, and hilar lymph node involvement is very uncommon in comparison to the primary TB where hilar lymph node are commonly involved. In immunocompetent, the lesion may heal with fibrocalcific scarring. So immunocompetent individuals, there the secondary TB is generally localized and it is asymptomatic also. But in other people, the lesions may progress to other areas within the lung, that is secondary progressive tuberculosis, and also to the miliary forms where the TB will spread to other parts of the body. So this the gross lesion is apical lesion, which can expand to the adjacent lung parenchyma, and it can also erode the blood vessels and bronchi. So when it erodes the bronchi, then person will have lot of productive cough with the bacilli. So he will expectorate the sputum with rich in bacilli and can infect other people. Then if this cavitary lesion, it erodes the blood vessel, especially the bronchial vessel, then the patient will present with hemoptysis, that is blood in the sputum. Cavitary lesions are very characteristic for the secondary tuberculosis. This you have to remember. And the lesions, they are walled off by the fibrous tissue. Then this is the lesion, picture is from Robbins, and these are the apical cavitary lesions. Again, in this picture here you can see there is a cut section showing these white areas of cheesy necrosis, and this is a foci of tubercular infection. In this lung you can see these cavitary lesions. And in microscopy there are coalescent tubercles and there is caseation. There is an image which is showing this is the bronchial wall lined by the columnar epithelium, and it is eroded by this caseating granuloma. So there is a bronchial wall and this is a granuloma which is eroding this bronchial wall. Again, this picture is from Robbins, and it shows the central caseation. These are the giant cells, lymphocytes, epithelioid cells. Again, this is the high power of this image. See the necrosis. These are the giant cells with horseshoe shape arrangement of the nuclei, and these dots, these dark blue dots, these are the lymphocytes, these small dots, and the rest are the epithelioid cells. Now again, this is a granuloma and it is not showing any caseation, so the person has a good immune response and there is no caseation, and this giant cell, and these are the epithelioid cells. And this is the staining of Z, special stain for the tubercular bacilli, that is acid fast stain, and this must be a immunocompromised individual and showing lots of tubercular bacilli. This information I have taken from this book, and certain lesions you need to remember for the multiple choice questions. In secondary TB, the lesion is apical, but in that also, if the lesion is infraclavicular, that it is known as S-band focus. If it is supraclavicular, it is known as pole focus. Then in miliary TB, you know that TB can go to any organ of the body. So if it reaches the brain cortex, it is known as rich focus. In liver, Simon focus, and if in the blood vessels, it is Vigard focus. And in progressive primary TB also, sometimes apical lesions are seen, but here it is known as Simon focus. So the progressive primary TB, the TB spreads from the Kohn focus to other part of the lung, and also to other part of the body it can go. And if it again reaches the lung in the apical region and forms a lesion, it is known as Simon focus. So this has been asked in the previous year exams. And another important thing is bronchial artery is the source of hemoptysis in tuberculosis, and infectious aneurysms in the pulmonary artery secondary to the pulmonary tuberculosis are known as Rasmussen aneurysms. So these and also extrapulmonary TB is a TB which occurs in any site other than the lung, and most commonly it is seen in cervical lymph nodes where it is called as scrofula. So these are the high yield points that you should know for the MCQs and sometimes for the Viva also. Now Zedden stain is the special stain. I told you about this in the part 1 of the lecture I uploaded. So you should go through all those points, and it is positive in active early lesions which are showing the caseation, and they are not seen in the fibrous and calcified lesions. And you should also remember the organisms. I told you that there's a mnemonic to learn all this: Legionella, Mycobacteria, Nocardia. So all those examples you have to remember for the Zn positive organisms. It is very commonly asked in the Viva, and also you are asked about the principle of Zn staining. Then progressive pulmonary TB, it is seen in old and immunocompromised individuals where the TB spreads beyond the lung to other parts of the body. Then miliary tuberculosis, in this, if the treatment is inadequate or if the host defenses are impaired, then infection will spread by airways, lymphatic channels, so that will cause this miliary TB. And grossly, the millet seed like multiple lesions are seen in the parenchyma of various organs like lung, spleen, liver, bone marrow, adrenal, meninges, kidneys, fallopian tubes. All these examples you have to remember, and miliary TB can virtually involve any organ of the body. So this is miliary TB example. This is a cut surface showing this millet seed like white small lesions. So this is the characteristic appearance on gross for the miliary TB. Again, here you see in the lungs these small white lesions of cheesy necrosis, they are seen, and the radiological image seems somewhat like this. Lastly, extrapulmonary TB, the various sites are lymph nodes. Most common cervical lymph nodes are involved. Lesion is known as scrofula. Then tubercular meningitis, renal tuberculosis, adrenal gland. All these are forms of extrapulmonary TB, and the most common lesion is the cervical lymph node. They are most commonly involved in extrapulmonary TB, and the lesion is known as scrofula. So here you can see there is a cut section of lymph node, and these are showing this whitish cheesy appearing areas. So these are the areas which are showing the caseation necrosis or cheesy necrosis, as we say. And this specimen is many a times it is kept in the practical examination, and you have to describe these such specimens, and you just have to say that it is a whole mount specimen of lymph node, the cut section of which is showing these cheesy white areas, and these are the cheesy white areas, and adjacent normal lymph node tissue is also seen. Then the examiner will ask you what is your diagnosis, then you can say my probable diagnosis is tuberculosis, tubercular lymph node. Now lastly, renal tuberculosis. So it is in early stages clinically silent, clinically it is asymptomatic, and later on can produce painless hematuria and sterile pyuria. These are the keywords can be asked in problem based questions. Grossly, there are cavitary lesions which are filled with necrosis. So you see these white areas of cheesy necrosis, these areas, and microscopy again caseating granulomas will be seen. And there is a group of non-tubercular mycobacteria, and I told you in the part 1 of tuberculosis lectures that these are other than the Mycobacterium tubercular complex, and they include Mycobacterium avium complex, Mycobacterium abscessus complex, Mycobacterium kansasi, and Fastidious M. lepri, which is difficult to grow. Then human to human transmission is very rare in non-tubercular mycobacteria, and it is generally present in the environment, and it is the humans, they get it from the environment. The pulmonary, cutaneous forms, and lymph node disease is seen in atypical mycobacteria, and sometimes disseminated disease can also be seen in immunocompromised individuals. And these are some Viva questions which can be asked in the exams, like causative organisms of TB, non-tubercular mycobacteria, then whether it is aerobic or anaerobic, you know it is aerobic, then mode of transmission, droplet infection, then the property of the cell wall of mycobacteria, it is very commonly asked. Then special stains, acid fast organisms name, then what are the primary cells affected in TB, it is macrophage, then granulomas differential diagnosis, giant cells differential diagnosis, and the clinical conditions increasing the risk of TB. All these questions, they are the Viva questions. These are my references. Thank you very much, and questions are most welcome in the comment section.